everyone. Welcome to the Epic Vision Zone. My name is Jane Applegath, a former award-winning stockbroker, television producer, yoga instructor, and serial entrepreneur, now founder of the Epic Vision Zone. I'm here to help you fulfill your dream's big vision, grow the power of your voice, and achieve the influence you're meant to have on the world. Because what you say and how you say it is the key to impacting more people, gaining financial freedom, and living a more abundant and joyful life. Here at the Epic Vision Zone, we bring you some of the world's most influential people to inspire you to hit the go button on your epic life. A big thank you to everyone for being here today. Are you ready to awaken a more powerful connection to your Divine Diva Essence? Our guest today will reveal just how. A visionary, intuitive healer, dynamic speaker, and pioneer in spiritual growth and transformation, Dr. Pamela Gerali is an architect for the human spirit. She captivates readers and audiences with wisdom and practical guidance from the blueprint for the human spirit, her holistic model for conscious, compassionate living. In Dr. Gerali's new book, The Dance of Ego and Essence, Confessions of a Divine Diva, you'll learn how to make enlightened decisions and awaken your spirituality for all areas of your life. Dr. Gerali believes most women want a powerful spiritual connection, but lack the path through their pain to discover their joy. In her new book, she shares her blueprint to spiritual transformation that includes how to live fearlessly from new perspectives, how to reconnect to your true spirit, how to finally build a positive relationship with yourself, and how to use the blueprint for human spirit. A registered nurse with a master's degree in public health and a doctorate in holistic health science, Pamela uses her creativity and amazing gifts to encourage others to live authentically and purposefully in alignment with their inner truth. Her transforming experiences and training background in nursing allow her to speak from the heart with knowledge and authority. Welcome, Dr. Pamela Gerali. So nice to have you with us today.
Thank you. It is delightful to be with you today also.
Well, I just cannot wait to delve into this topic because your background and the experience that you have gone through are fascinating. So, in your new book, The Dance of the Ego and Essence, Confessions of a Divine Diva, you share a unique journaling experience. Tell us about that journey.
Yes, I'm so excited about this book. And originally it was just my journal, but I had had a period of illness. And when I recovered, I asked the higher powers that be what to do first because I had not been working on my passion and my purpose, which is to share the blueprint for the human spirit. And so I just said, where do you want me to start? And I was guided not to pick up on something that I had worked on before, but to get up early and go to my office and journal confessions for 40 days. And I had no idea why, but and certainly I had done a lot of confessing. I let go of a lot of things in my life over the years through guidance from the blueprint. And I didn't know why 40 days because I thought, well, maybe I can do this for 20 days or 30, but I was told 40 days. And when I researched it, I realized that 40 is the number of rebirth, which is a very powerful, powerful number. So I still didn't know what I was supposed to do, but I got up early. I went to my office. I lit a candle. I sat and closed my eyes and sat in silence for about 3 minutes. And a word came to me, discipline. And I had this immediate visceral reaction because nobody likes that word. We don't want anybody telling us what to do or how to do it. But I thought, oh, goodness, there's my first confession. So I grabbed my journal and I wrote that down. And I just wrote almost like an outpouring of my experiences from when I was a child, where I was punished harshly because my parents were fundamental Christians. And of course, if you did something wrong, it was a sin and you just had to be corrected. And then how I became very, you turn that inward so that we can be self disciplined. And when we learn how to discipline ourselves, as long as we don't overdo, we can find direction. We can choose a course because we learn how to say no to one thing so we can say yes to something else, something better, to our dream, to our vision, to our purpose, so to speak. And so that day was so beautiful. In an hour, I just wrote nonstop, it almost like automatic writing. And it ended with this beautiful affirmation about how I was in the divine order, in divine flow. And I was so elated. I thought, wow, this is wonderful because it shows exactly what I have learned about discipline and direction from the blueprint for the human spirit. So the next day, I woke up early. I went to my office and it was another word, scattered. And because I am kind of hyper and I am very creative, I had a hard time focusing. And I went through the process of writing about that. And every day for 40 days, plus an epilogue, I wrote my confessions. And it was this amazing experience in radical honesty. I mean, in order to really experience the depth of what this process can do for you, you have to be so radically honest. You have to bare your soul and just allow it to flow. And in the process, I was elated. I was so free of all this stuff, another layer of things, because certainly I had worked on a lot of personal issues in the past, but I was so free that I felt like I was flying, I was soaring, I was living in a state of bliss. And so I would encourage everybody to consider this process because it truly can free us from all the baggage and all the blocks and all the bluffs. I mean, so many times we present a part of ourselves or a facade that isn't real. And certainly a way to let go of all of that so we can be authentic. We can get real with ourselves and express the truth of our being, essence, the truth of our being. So that was this amazing process that certainly was life-changing for me. And I didn't intend to share my dirty spiritual laundry with the world, but but after sharing some of my writings with friends, they said, "Oh, you have to do this," because when we read this, it gives us permission, first of all, to be as honest about our experiences and about our fears and about our stuff as you were. And it also can help so many people. So that is why I chose to share my journal in the form of the book, The Dance of Ego and Essence, Confessions of a Divine Diva.
I love the title. I am not sure where the diva part came from, but I love it. Certainly sparks my curiosity. And so for you, it was almost like it was flowing through you. That's the sense
Yes.
that I get, which was incredible because it almost sounds as if you were able to unload
Yes.
things that you had accumulated, and which we all do over the years. You know, life is what it is. I mean, you start and you have, your it's parents, culture, school, friends, everything, and all that comes together.
Yes.
But
We all
wow,
have
what
stuff.
we do, we all have, you know, stuff. I was going to say something
Challenging
else.
relationships and
Exactly.
misconceptions.
Yeah, misconceptions. And you did mention the 40 days. Now, how did you find that the answer to the 40 days? Because when you first started this process, were you aware of the significance of the 40 days? Or did you research that and find that afterwards?
I researched it before I began because I wanted to
Mm,
get away with 21 days. 'Cause it takes 21 days to create a habit, so to speak. And I thought, well, I can do this for 21 days. I hadn't worked in a while because I had been taking care of my husband. I had not been focusing on my work. I had a lot of family responsibilities. And so I thought 21 days, but the 40 days is truly life changing.
mm,
And when I researched it before I began, I did learn more about 40 days. Of course, I recalled all the 40-day and the number 40 in a number of spiritual experiences. First of all, the 40-day flood, 40 years in the wilderness that the Israelites spent. Gestation is 40
mm.
weeks. And so there were a lot of 40s. And so
Right.
I realized that that was significant. Lent is 40 days. And certainly that's a process of kind of clearing, letting go as well. So
Right.
that was really important. And what was so profound for me was that every single day, something new popped up, things about my desire to be perfect because when I was raised in a fundamental church, and you're not going to make it inside the pearly gates if you're unless you're perfect. At least I believe that. And the difference between, say, prayer or intercessory prayer and begging God as like a Santa Claus or something to intervene on your behalf or other people's behalf, into being in a state of presence. I mean,
Mm,
there were so many things, and I believe that they're universal issues that we all face. So, certainly, the experience that I had was also critical because I believe that unless we have an experience of something, unless we can really feel it in our bones, and we don't learn, we don't change when someone tells us something or
mm.
when we read something. We need to experience something firsthand before it's going to have an impact on us. And certainly that is what happened to me. And then, as a result of my experience, I also created a companion journal to go with that book so that others who would read it would have a chance to go through that same process. And it's a holistic process. That's the other thing that makes a difference. We don't change just by hearing something or seeing something. It has to be a whole body experience. And so the journal provides an opportunity for us to kind of read, say, the chapter from my book, and then write your own confession, write your own experiences. And there are meditations that touch us at a deeper level. And I'm in the process of just finishing recording them with an amazing musician here in Naples, Florida, where I live, Stu Shelton. And I recorded the meditations while he organically played
Mm.
behind them. And they're so touching and so powerful. So soon they will be available also. And then I included kind of a dance type activity, exercise to help give everybody a chance to experience that particular topic in a variety of ways. We don't have to be dancing per se, but it's kind of symbolic of a creative experience that we use to fully integrate what we've learned and what we've experienced. So that holistic process is really important and powerful.
Wow, Pamela, you have got something so special here. First of all, when you were talking in reference to just reading something or learning something, I agree 100% for me because I am really in love, creativity, and vision, imagination. And it's about igniting a feeling. We have to feel something that makes
Yes.
us respond viscerally, whether it's, I call it the emotion of the action, because the emotion is the energy in motion. And if
Yes.
we don't feel it, in fact, that's something in my teachings when I have someone and they're working on their future vision, what they see as either in their personal or business life, I get them to record it and hear it back to themselves, close their eyes, and I say, does it move you? Do you feel it? And if you don't, then there's work to be done. If you do, then
Exactly.
you've got your vision, right? Because I
Yeah.
agree 100%. It has to be that experience. And experience is all about the energy and motion. So beautifully put. And I cannot wait for that meditation. I love that you've got the journal to go with, because that helps individuals like myself. I often get stuck. I get too much in my head when I'm
Mhm.
asked to write down things that, confessions or whatever the case might be. But that's a prompt. So it gets you in the flow. It gets you
Yes.
in the feeling of what might come up for you. And then you have your journal. Beautiful, beautiful. I love
Yes.
it. Thank you so much for sharing that. So that
Yes.
leads into my next question, because motivation, you have, what motivated you to pursue this journey of self-discovery? I know you probably had tremendous shifts, but at some point you might have, some people might have pulled back, but you kept going.
Yes. Well, as a child, I was raised in a very narrow, very fundamental home and church, and in a very small town. So I was very limited in many ways. And then I went to college and the world opened up to me. And I pursued a degree in nursing and public health. But all of that, what I call the unholy trinity of guilt, shame, and fear, came along with me when I pursued my career. And I tried to suppress it, but it was still there. Eventually, I had a opportunity to attend a leadership conference at the Center for Creative Leadership in Greensboro, North Carolina. And there we worked with change partners. We did visioning, journaling. We went on nature walks. We worked with all kinds of different individuals to help us. And it truly was kind of my first holistic experience. And the first time I did visioning and journaling. And I had visions that were just so powerful that I couldn't almost didn't want to come back. I was, it was guided imagery, so to speak. And it just led me into this beautiful place. And I realized at that point that there was something more. And when I went back to work, I was the program director for this national organization, the Prevent Blindness America. So I had very intense, very expanded leadership roles in my career. But I went back and I realized that my job was no longer compatible with my new vision. So I
Ah,
quit. I just quit my job just like that. And I had
I love
fortunately
it.
recently been I had gotten married, so I didn't have to worry about paying the bills, which was a blessing. But that started me down a different path. That was the moment that my life changed. And I think most of us have an experience like that. Some people may have an illness. And certainly when I wrote my book, I did have something like that I had to that caused me to shift. In fact, when I was sick that one time, I was responsible for about 6 different volunteer groups and organizations and
Mm.
projects. And I wasn't doing my own because I was so caught up in everybody else's. And it was almost like the universe said, if you can't say no, we'll help you. And
Yeah.
I was flatlined and I couldn't do anything. So I had to give up all those fun projects and all that interaction with other people. I had to let that all go so I could refocus. But with my experience after going to the Center for Creative Leadership. I don't know whether you're aware of it or have ever been there, but it was phenomenal. And but I pursued a spiritual path for the first time. I had let go of everything spiritual in my life or religious because it was very negative,
Hmm.
and spent all those years in my career, um, close to 20 years, without having any kind of spiritual input or outlet. I loved to sing. I used to sing quite a bit, and I um, would go to church and sang in my friend's choir. But when the preacher got up, I didn't hear a word. It was like I shut down. And
Yeah.
so I was really just there to sing. However, at this point, I had made a choice and I was guided. My older sister was very spiritual, but she didn't talk to me about it because she knew I wasn't interested or ready to hear about it. But I told her about going to this program and asked her what to read. And the very first book I read was The Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. It was a long time ago, but that was the beginning. And I was insatiable. I couldn't get enough things to read. I couldn't go to enough workshops. I mean, my entire life was spent as a spiritual junkie, as a
Yeah.
seeker, searching. I was searching, but I
Yeah.
was fearful because of the way I was raised. I was so afraid that I would be led down the wrong path because, um, I didn't want to be led astray. I wanted to find the truth. And so I kept reading and searching, but questioning. I tried every spiritual practice, that everybody did. So I went through this process. And then I was awakened in the morning, about 3:30 in the morning. For some reason, the sky's clear then, and the gates of heaven open, so to speak. And I received divine downloads. This happened starting in 1995, 3 to 4 days a week for 6 months. And
Wow.
one concept at a time, information started flowing in. And so after about an hour and a half, I would get up out of bed because I was just doing this in bed. I would get up and go to my office and enter into my computer the information that came to me. And it started to emerge with sacred geometry, like a mind, body, spirit triangle. Well, and I didn't know anything about symbolism or what triangles meant. But the information came and it kind of started merging into a chart form, and which kept growing and growing. And the simple triangle kept evolving into a bigger um, diagram, and with other different kinds of symbols, triangles and spheres and things. And certainly there was energy associated with that, but it kept growing and growing in harmony with my understanding, with my growth. So
Yeah.
this blueprint for the human spirit just evolved organically and perfectly, so that I understood it and I could integrate it. Every time something new came along, it's like the universe says, okay, we'll let you figure this out here. Here's an experience for you. And as a result, it kept learning and growing with it. So it was
Yeah.
just beautiful.
Wow. So this is out. This is something that came to you before your book. Is that correct? Do I have that
Yes,
right?
yes,
The
yes.
blueprint. Yeah. So yeah, I could see that.
And the book,
That's
yes,
yes,
the book
exactly.
actually reveals exactly what I learned over the
Wow.
years. It shows how I had shifted, and
Okay.
what I had learned and how I had transformed. And certainly the first organic reactions that I had when these words came to me every day was kind of took me back to where I was when I began, so to speak, and then ended every day with this beautiful affirmation about how I had learned and grown and what I believed in this moment to be true for me, and how my life had just transformed one idea and concept at a time.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I mean, excuse me. We just, excuse me, frog. The affirmations are something that I wanted to ask you about because the power of
Hmm.
affirmations. Tell us,
Hmm.
I just heard how you came to create them, but tell us why they are so important and the power that you believe they have behind them.
Affirmations to me are just positive ways of expressing what we know deep within us. And when we take the time to really delve into our beliefs and express them and repeat them, certainly we can repeat an affirmation until it becomes truth or real, but also it just expresses what we know in the truth of our being. Instead of uh, like asking God for something or to change us or heal us, we can affirm in the moment that it is happening now, that it is already so. And in the process, then everything shifts. Our mind changes and grasps these new ideas and brings them to life and brings them into the reality of what we're really uh, what we are, so to speak. So affirmations can be a tool to help us, but they can also remind us about who we are, and that's how what they are to me.
Yes, I could. Yeah, they are so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
If we use them, if we become into the habit of possibly
Mm-hmm.
reminding us of what is possible. Yes, I love
Yes.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So, radical honesty and results. You explain radical honesty and the exercise. What results have you seen from it, and what does that actually mean? I mean, I think I have an idea from what you've told us, but maybe delve into it a little bit more.
Okay. Well, to me, it begins with radical honesty, and that's where we fess up, so to speak, about our shortcomings, about our failures, about our um, lack of understanding, perhaps, or feelings, experiences that we have had with difficult relationships. And if you read my book, you'll see that I fessed up to a lot of things that happened to me over the years. In fact, as I was writing, um, I remembered things that I had suppressed or forgotten long ago. I remembered as a 5 year old in first grade that a little boy had exposed himself to me. And I mean, that was the first time I experienced something like that. My parents, had just started going to this very fundamental church, and I knew that was wrong. And so, what did I say? I said to this boy, oh, you're a devil. That was the worst word I knew. And he says, but you're an angel. And I'm like, oh, goodness, And so that has
That
stuck with me.
didn't
But I
work.
had forgotten that. That didn't help. But I mean, I had suppressed that. That was the first time I was experienced that type of abuse as a 5 year old. If you can imagine, from a little older boy who was in our grade because he failed one year. So he was a couple years older than me. But I mean, this process, when we just let it come to the surface and express it, we can get it out of our system. And that, I think, is the beauty of it. So, in the process, we can let go of baggage. I mean, we carry around all this emotional stuff, even if we've, you know, done a lot of work and let go of a lot of things. Certainly, there are other levels that are still there that we can release. And at that time, when I wrote this book, I had been working with the blueprint. I had been teaching it. I had been sharing it. I had written a couple books already, and I was doing intuitive healings and helping other people. But still, there's always something there to let go of. So we have baggage, we have beliefs that we
Mm-hmm.
have latched onto that are often limiting.
Yep.
We may have beliefs about who we are. And certainly I had many of them that I had to shift because I never thought I was good enough. I was told by every minister that I heard that I was an unworthy sinner, that
Mm.
I was not, I just, it was very negative. And certainly, this unholy trinity of guilt, shame, and fear that hung over me was something I had to release. But nobody ever told me about my original divinity. And
Mm.
when we know that we are born in the image and likeness of God, we have original divinity. This is what it means when I say to be a divine diva. You know who you are, you know the essence of your being, and you release all of this so that you can fully embrace and express that. And
Right.
certainly, radical honesty in the process, we let go of all this. We own up to it, we make amends. We say, I'm sorry to ourselves. Often, we are our worst enemies because we diminish ourselves as much as other people may have. And then we can feel what it feels like when we shift our beliefs and bring them into alignment with truth instead of hanging on to those things. I thought I had to do everything myself. I thought I had to do everything better than everybody else and faster than everybody else. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought that, if I asked for help, I was weak or not, effective enough. I mean, there were just so many things that kept me from expressing the truth of my being. So, in the process of letting that go, I was free. I was
Mm-hmm.
free to fully uh, discover and know who I am as essence and express that. I was free to fully engage wholeheartedly, to allow my dreams to come true, to live purposefully. And I'm here, I know why I'm here to share the blueprint for the human spirit. And I was also brought here to put all the pieces together. I have a very organized mind, a very logical, rational mind. And so the chart, the matrix of the blueprint appeals to me, and it certainly appeals to our brains, that part of our being. But there's far more than that. And so,
Well,
but yes,
go ahead.
so
No,
many.
yeah, the blueprint is magnificent. And I just wanted to say that it's like cleaning, when you were saying about radical honesty and the results, for me, it's like cleaning the slate. It's almost like
Yes,
you've got a brand new program, because,
yes.
if you think of us as in the computer world, I call it static. And it's all that static, whether it's from the past, whether it's from the present. But the static doesn't allow us to tune into the station, which is our true
Mhm.
essence. And until
Right.
we can clear it, we're going to bump up against those limiting beliefs. And often those are the things that keep us either stuck, or at a level where we're not reaching into our full potential, or like you in your experience, this opening that you've had, because that perfection, I could see that, I could hear the perfection coming out, in the sense that you felt that you couldn't ask questions because that would show weakness, and you had to do everything right and better than everyone else. That was the perfection that was trying to come through in you. But yeah, so powerful. I know you mentioned, and we're just going to segue into this, the blueprint for the human spirit. Now, I love that it is in chart form, and everyone, please take advantage of the free download that Pamela has available on her website. But delve into a little bit of that if you can for us, because it is so handy. And you're right, because we like to compartmentalize things in our brain. It really helps bring like a puzzle. It's pieces of a puzzle that you can work with. So maybe just open up a little bit of what the blueprint does and how it works.
Yes, the blueprint is just an amazing gift, and it evolved, like I said, over time. But what it includes, it is like a guide for conscious, compassionate, and authentic living. And one cell of the matrix at a time, I think we can learn how to fully live so that we can be authentic and we can be compassionate. And I will also say that for many years, the blueprint, which is a holistic model because it includes the physical, mental, emotional, intuitive, and spiritual dimensions of life, and focuses on life from an energetic, a personal, social, global, and eternal realms of being. So there's 25 cells in the matrix. And I think when we look at them individually, it can help us because each one reflects an aspect of our life. Each one includes attributes that help us to be more authentic or conscious or compassionate. Each one has aspects of our life and things that we can do and ways that we can learn and processes that can bring us to clarity, so to speak. But I will say this, the blueprint for many years, I'm not sure how many, maybe 6 years or so, was a very interesting intellectual exercise for me. And then one day I had a meditation. I was sitting on my lanai, and I will be honest and say that I'm not good at meditating or sitting in the silence because I'm very hyperactive and I like to talk. But I was sitting on my lanai in the early morning, and I went into this very deep, deep state. And within an hour and a half, I experienced 15 past lives.
Wow.
Each one almost popped into me, and I experienced a dramatic event in the lives of each of these people, one at a time. And there were children and women and men from all walks of life, and they spanned the ages from ancient Mayan times to more early 1900s. And it was such a powerful experience. I mean, I have never heard of that happening to anybody before. And it was so powerful that I could hardly function. But I came to after about an hour and a half and went to my office. It was on a Sunday, and we were going to go to church. So I wrote in my journal just 2 lines about each one as I recalled them. And I wrote them down in a different order in which I experienced them. But I realized that at that time, there were 15 primary cells in the blueprint matrix. And there were
Mm.
15 people. And each one reflected one aspect of the blueprint. And they all reflected, even though they were from the past, they all reflected an aspect of my life today. And they
Wow.
each reflected a core shift in consciousness.
Mm.
When I went to church, I couldn't even speak. And my friend looked at me and said, "What happened to you? Go home and write it all down." And I did. And I'm so glad that I did. But as I was remembering those 15 experiences, I realized how powerful that was. For the first time, I fully integrated the blueprint because I experienced it.
Mhm.
It wasn't just an interesting intellectual exercise. A
Y-
few days later, I visited a friend who was a therapist, and she said, "Well, after I told her about this, would you like to do a regression?" And I'm like, I have all these people, And I said, "Why not? What's one more, right?" So
Yeah.
she guided me back. She guided me back in time, and I was a child at the feet of Jesus when he said, "Let the children come to me." for theirs
Mm.
is the kingdom of heaven. And in that moment, it all came together in perfect, it completed the whole process because that beloved child of God was the archetype for the eternal realm of the blueprint.
Mm.
And to me, it reflects the fact that children, this is where we want to be, like children. When Jesus said, let the children come to me, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Yes, that is true because children are open, they are curious, they are joyful, they are loving, they are not judgmental, they are innocent. And you mentioned something leading up to that innocence because this is what the process of radical honesty kind of brings us back to our innocence. It wipes the slate clean so that we truly can be that free of the past. We can live in the moment and be free of everything, all the mistakes that we made, and truly live joyfully. And that's how we can dance like the divine divas that we are, because we can experience that true joy. But all those archetypes that I experienced, past lives or archetypes, because I think they're all archetypes, reflected how, and the very first one was powerful because she was a virgin sacrifice from the Mayan times. And at 13, she was given by her mother over to the high priest and she was sacrificed. But if you look at it symbolically, the high priest is like your higher understanding. Uh, the age 13 is the age of accountability, when we should be able to make choices that are in our better interest, so to speak. And the symbolically, a death represents transformation.
Mm.
So, but the lesson that I learned from her is the very first thing about the blueprint in the physical dimension is that we have to take good care of ourselves first. We come first. And I think for women, that is the hardest lesson. We have so many responsibilities for our families and for our communities or whatever. But if we don't take care of ourselves first, we won't have the energy or the ability or the resources that we need to help and serve others. So, certainly, that is key. And if we follow the wisdom of the heart, which first pumps oxygenated blood to itself, then we have adequate energy to do everything else that we want to do. But we have to come first. So that was just one little lesson that I learned.
Wow, so much insight. I have to say that you must have been so in tune because if I'm just saying off the top of my head, if that vision had come to me, I would be horrified. I wouldn't break it down into the teaching that you just expressed because that is very powerful. But yeah, yeah, it's amazing. You're right. What they were delivered to you as a way to showing you exactly what the blueprint was, how it unfolds in real life. I got
Yes.
that impression as well. And now I know that your book is been said that it's a very powerful healing tool. How has it, just give us a couple of examples of how it has helped some others.
Okay. Well, I have had a friend who, um, her daughter was very sick, and certainly we all want to heal our children or help them or whatever. And in the process of reading this, she realized that certainly we can't do that for our children. We have to let go of that and allow them to make the choices that they're going to make and experience life, uh, experience failures or whatever. But in the process, uh, she learned how to step back and how to let go enough so that her daughter would take the lead. instead of enabling her, so to speak, she was able to be there and support her, but not assume responsibility for her adult daughter. So there are many examples like that. That is just one. And I have another friend who has shared with me how she was so trapped in negative thinking because her life was challenging and she had encountered many roadblocks to the point where if she was afraid to try anything new, afraid to pursue her dreams because she just believed that they nothing would result because she uh, believed in a negative approach or something negative was going to happen. So in that coming to light, she was able to see how her thinking was almost becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. And
Mhm.
when she started thinking and believing and trusting in herself, trusting in the universe to provide whatever resources she needed, trusting in others to support her, then she was able to pursue her dreams and realize more of her creative potential. So, I mean, that's amazing to be able to make a shift. And certainly, one of the things that happened to me was in the process of the blueprint emerging, and I've written a little bit about it in my book, is how I discovered that I was intuitive. Now, my training as a nurse was more scientific, and my left brain was very well developed. And I was creative, but I did not realize that I was intuitive, that I had this higher perception. I believe we all have that. And certainly as children, they are tapped into that because they don't have these sensors or they don't have all the false beliefs that we have as adults, per se. But I realized that I was intuitive and I started sensing things. And I sensed, first thing that happened to me was I realized that everything that I saw had some symbolic significance in nature or in just an experience. I could see the symbolism and the deeper meaning of it. So that was the beginning. But then I realized if I just opened myself, and it started more where I would think of a family member or friend who had a problem, and I would be kind of praying for them as I was lying in bed if I couldn't sleep. And then I would see imagery. And I found myself moving my hands around or moving my body. And I was feeling things and sensing things more kinetically than, and I also kind of hear words and I see visions and imagery, but I was feeling more. So I was clairsentious, so to speak. And in the process, I realized then that I could sit with other people and ask for guidance, tap into that, and open myself and, them to receive also higher guidance and become like a mirror. And my body would go into motion and I would see imagery and I would do all kinds of interesting things like play air pianos and which at the time doesn't necessarily mean anything, but when you talk to the person that you're working with is like, yeah, I'm a concert pianist or something. But I would become like a mirror and I spoke in first person, which was
Mm.
huge. And I realized that that's an example of how we shift out of separation into oneness because we are
Mm.
one. And my healing is your healing, is the healing of the world.
Mm.
And so, as I work with individuals one on one and share what comes to me, And with these motions and positions, for instance, if I am moving back and forth in my seat like this, I just know that means indecision, back and forth. And if I can't move, if I'm stuck on my chair and I can't get up, I'm stuck in the past, I'm trapped by something. And I know and learned that just a shift in perception creates healing.
Mm. Yeah.
So if we become aware of our beliefs that are limiting us and keeping us from fully expressing and embracing the truth of our being, and keeping us from realizing our highest creative potential, then that is the first step. This realization to helping us shift and to realizing our highest good in the process. So, this whole healing strategy and modality came to me as well, just like the blueprint. It came in harmony with the blueprint. And what a gift that is. Because when I work with people, it is so amazing. And I love doing it because I am healed as well. I am uplifted by this beautiful experience. And it usually ends with this divine blessing. When I work with people one on one in person, I kind of put my hands over their head and speak almost as God. I speak a blessing to them, like, my beloved daughter, you are
Mm.
so beautiful. You have such creative potential. I mean, it just flows out of me. It's unique for every person, but it's like speaking from the divine. And certainly, we are the hands and the heart and the voice of God here on earth. That is who we are. And when we show up as love, as light, and allow God to speak through us, act as us, then we are transforming the world one person at a time, one smile at a time. And certainly that is what happens when I work with individuals in this healing mode. I call them spiritual blueprintings because it is in harmony with the blueprint. Sometimes we will work on things that are physical, sometimes more mental, sometimes emotional releases. I worked with a gal who had lost her mother at a very young age, and her little heart was just broken. I could see this
Mm.
huge gaping hole in her heart. So we sewed it up, you know, symbolically, and then put a little crazy glue on it to make things light and joyful again. And it was transforming, just going through that process. And also, I've been on spiritual journeys with people where we climb mountains and ended up in the presence of God, in the light, pure divine light. I was with a woman, working with a woman, and she sat back in her chair and she brought her knees up and she gave birth. It was like, gave birth to her higher self. Named her
Wow.
Diana. So I
That's
never, ever know.
Yeah, that would be quite
Powerful.
something. Wow,
So,
amazing.
but
Yeah.
it's very personal. It's very transforming. So between the guidance from the book and the radical on how that starts the process of us letting go of all these things that are suppressing us and keeping us from fully expressing the truth of our being, then certainly the healings, one-on-one and small group healings, are transforming as well. So those are just two of the things that I do.
Oh my, so powerful. Yes, it is. It is really amazing what the human spirit is capable of. And you as an individual who have stepped into your full potential, whatever, however you want to describe that. But and you can just feel, your energy and your passion for what you now know is your calling. And
Yes.
that's imagine all of us being that excited and that passionate. I mean, wow, the world would be an amazing place. It really would be. So speaking
Yes.
of you have leadership mentoring as well. So tell us how
Mhm.
you can work, you guide not just individuals, but you have organizations as well to envision and enhance their impact and outreach. Because as you
Mhm.
know, many of us do work within within corporations, but something like your teachings would be so powerful if brought into an organization or just the level of the blueprint. So maybe explain a
Mhm.
little bit of your leadership mentoring program.
Sure. Well, just like everything else that I do, it is based on the blueprint, and there
Mhm.
is a process within the blueprint that is begins with vision, and I love epic vision.
Thank you.
But it begins with the vision, and that is like the dream, the idea, the creative um, inspiration that we have for how we can make a difference, how we can leave a legacy of love, so to speak, in the world. And so once we have a vision, then we need a commitment. We need the will, and it's kind of a gut intuition kind of thing that happens. Then we bring to the heart, where we feel that, where we reach out and find what resources are available to us, and then take it up to the head, where we create a plan, and then take it into the body in total, where we actually put it into action. So there is this beautiful blueprint based process that occurs. And I use that. One classic example was how I worked with a church, and I was new to the area and new to this particular spiritual community. And a friend of mine who knew I collected vintage hats, I have like 200 vintage, a lot of vintage hats. I used to be known as the Hat Lady, and I have them hanging in my sacred space here, and piles of hat boxes in my closet.
Just
But
that's amazing. Just as an aside, my family way back, my great grandfather, I believe, we had the largest hat store in the city of Toronto way back in the day. So that's very interesting.
yes, you would love some of my hats. I have some Jack McConnell originals and stuff like that. So
Oh,
I have quite a
wonderful.
collection. They're wild and fun, and certainly I have done a lot of talks that uses hats to reflect different aspects of the blueprint, and so I have fun with them. And then I've done higher teas, tea with purpose. And certainly
Mm.
that's what happened. This woman invited me to a gathering to talk about doing a vintage fashion show as a little fundraiser and to do something fun and entertaining at this church. And so we talked about it and thought, oh, this is great. I have hats and I have gloves and all these other kinds of things. And she had some clothing and she had a contact. And when I left at the very end, I said, this is great. But what do the women really want and need? And that question was like, well, we don't know. So I said, and they said, how do we find that out? I said, well, let's do a survey. So we did a survey, and 180 women responded, and they wanted everything, which we couldn't do. But
Right.
we ended up deciding based on my first book that I published was called Higher Tea, The Essence of Joy. And it was kind of an introduction to the blueprint. I'm in the process of updating and expanding that book. But we thought we could do higher teas once a month. So we promoted it and invited people, and we all brought our tea services and things, and it was beautiful. Just lovely. We had 100 women show up at first event. But the process that we went through involved creating teams, and we brought them together and showed them how to do things. In fact, we had women who were so shy that they didn't want to get involved, but this beautiful experience gave them an opportunity to come into their own. And we would give them opportunities to get up and learn how to speak uh, in front of an audience that was loving and supportive, and there was one woman who really did cry when I was encouraging her to participate, and she didn't want to speak. And a year later, she was on the board of the church. I mean, that is the shift that occurred
Wow.
as a result of her experience with this group. So, but I helped create that, and then I packaged the whole idea and have shared it with a number of churches so that they can create their own programs, ongoing programs that involves groups of women planning together and coming together and sharing. I mean, we did everything from speed bonding exercises, not speed bonding, where we had like 3 minutes to kind of ask a question and get insight, and I mean, it was just awesome what we did. And we had humor. This woman who was a wannabe would show up, exaggerated. It was just so much fun, though. But I created that, and then I learned how to work with teams, and I've worked with other organizations on visioning and looking into the future, and trying to identify exactly what priorities were most important. So I would start with a group of, like an audience, and we would bring it down to a slogan and a priorities, some key points,
Right.
vision, all the different things that come into creating a vision and a mission and whatever. So I've worked in so many different ways in with organizations, but I loved the women's groups because women are so awesome. And have so much potential, and so many times we have put ourselves aside. We have and there's so much creativity that has been untapped. And so that's why I enjoy working with women, and why the Divine Diva idea came to be. Because I think
Uh,
we're all divine divas. And when we learn how to dance and express ourselves and share our gifts in upbeat, positive ways, we make a difference. We truly can leave a legacy of love.
yes, absolutely. I love that. It's really the transformation. You see it almost immediately because of that community and the sharing of the energy. Oh my gosh, it sounds like. And the other thing is that there's play. Like you have fun. And see that really brings people, that elevates everyone. It elevates your
Exactly.
energy, it elevates your spirit, it elevates your creativity. I mean, really,
Yes.
it does away with the static and it brings in the play, which is getting back to being children, because that's one of the
Mhm.
things that we've forgotten is how to play. And play is very important. But anyway, that's a topic for another
Another
day.
time.
Yeah, exactly. But I love it, and I could see the mentorship in that, and realizing that we all have a voice, and the more we can express it, the more we can not just inspire others, but provide them with knowledge and resources. Because that's
Yes.
that's something that's the collaboration that women are really good
Mhm.
at, and it's helpful for everyone. So I wanted to ask you an open-ended question here. What excites you most about the future in life today?
What excites me the most? I am so excited about the possibilities. They are infinite. And if we can turn off the TV and go within and see or look out at nature and see the possibilities, see the beauty, and know that we are part of that, that we have infinite potential to make a difference. And my focus with my work is to help people discover their divine blueprint. Because when we learn who we are and can live authentically, and why we are here, and do it, serve compassionately, and discover how we're a part of the whole, so that we can continue to co-create this beautiful earthly experience that we are having, leaving a legacy of love. I mean, it's infinite. It's the potential. But I always start inside, because if we don't do our inner work first, then we can't really help others to the degree that we really can. And certainly the greatest gift that we can give to the world is our best self, one that's aware and awake and open and loving.
Yeah.
So that is why I do what I do, and why I try to show up every day. I want to share this with you because it was so powerful. Because my vision and my work is pretty big with the blueprint, sharing it with the world. But I was once asked in a healing if, you know, how this one woman wanted to know if she should get a new job. She was having challenges, and if that would help her. And the guidance that came was, it doesn't matter where you work, who you serve, or what you do. Just show up every day as love. And I thought, wow, in doing that, we make a difference, because our energy goes out infinitely in waves and touches everybody, people close to us and people beyond. And if we let our light shine as radiant as they are, and not diminish ourselves or allow others to diminish our lights, we truly make a difference. And it only takes one smile to radiate out. I don't know whether you remember the movie Pay It Forward, but it was a long time ago. But it showed how one little act of kindness can make a difference. Well, certainly conscious acts of compassion that are sent out into the universe can really make a difference, because our intention is with it. And we certainly uplift humanity in whatever way that we can, so that we truly create a new earth. After we create a new heaven within us, we change our minds, create a new heaven, and then how we express ourselves, we create a new earth and make a difference.
Wow. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what you're right. It's the small things. Even
It
if
is
you smile at a stranger, 9 times out of 10, they'll smile back, or they'll be like, oh, why is she smiling? But it's amazing. It doesn't take much. It's a smile. But anyway, absolutely beautiful, Pamela. Just beautiful. I have one last question, Pamela, because we're here on the Epic Vision Zone. If your life were an epic story, what would the title be?
Goodness. Since I love hats, and I have so many, and I wear them very well, perhaps it would be She Wore Her Hats Very Well. And that reflects about how we fulfill our roles and responsibilities, but also how we, wearing a hat, you have to be really bold and brave, because when you walk down a street in a hat, people are going to notice your hat. And so you have to have a little, you have to be brave. You have to be bodacious, so to speak. So perhaps she wore her hats very well.
I love it. I get the metaphor. It makes total sense. A different hat for a different day and a different mood.
Yes. And a
It's
different learning, a different experience.
exactly. Oh,
And I wish I
fabulous.
had one right here so I could put a hat on for you.
Right.
In fact, I have one I could grab, but
Oh, well, that I love it. I think it makes total sense, and certainly fits perfectly with your life and how things have changed and the transformation, because you're right, when you change your hat you transform. I mean,
Yes.
you come into another character, or you get another, all of a sudden, you've got that panache which you didn't have before. So fabulous. I
Exactly.
love it. I wanted to thank you again, Pamela, for joining us here today and sharing those magnificent stories. Be sure to check out Dr. Pamela Gerali's life-changing book, The Dance of Ego and Essence, Confessions of a Divine Diva, and discover more by visiting her website at Dr. Pamela Gerali, that's GERALI.com. And you can find her contact information and more on the Epic Vision Zone bio page. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at Jane Applegath, and check out how you can become an epic entrepreneur at janeapplegath.com and download your free copy of The Keys to Your Dreams. This is the Epic Vision Zone, transforming your dreams into epic success.